Hello again and welcome to session 7 of Healthy Helpings. Let's just have a quick recap of the topics we covered in the last session. We began the session by looking at protein, beans, pulses such as lentils, fish, eggs, meat and meat substitutes such as corn, and the importance they play in our diets and how to make healthier choices. We then moved on to dairy products and alternatives and looked at how making small changes can make a big difference. We finished up by talking about activity and activity goals. So, how have you been getting on with your goals? Did anything get in the way of your achieving them, and if so, what? Are there any changes needed to a goal to make it easier? Is there a family member or friend that could share your goal with you? If you're achieving your goal, you may want to make it more challenging or harder for yourself, or even set a new goal. This would be a good time to pause the video and think about what changes you need to make. So this week we're going to look at the occasional foods, the foods and drinks high in fat, salt and sugar, and healthier options for snacks. We'll then move on to activity, and in particular chair-based activities, balance and coordination. Kerry will then finish off with looking at your goals in more detail. As you can see from the Eat Well guide, foods and drinks that are high in fat, salts and sugar sit outside the main image. This lets us know that these foods aren't essential for our health. They don't give us anything of value in terms of nutrition. They provide extra fat, salt and sugar which we don't need. We should therefore eat these foods less often and in smaller amounts. The foods included in this group are chocolate, cakes, biscuits, sugary soft drinks, sweets, ice cream, crisps, chips and also sauces such as tomato ketchup. Many of these foods are regarded as snack foods. You don't need fatty and sugary snacks as part of your balanced diet. This is true. We should all try to eat less fatty and sugary snacks, keeping them to occasional foods. These foods can contain a lot of calories which our bodies don't require, and eating them to excess can lead to weight gain. However, depriving yourself altogether from these can be very difficult. Remember, your goals need to be achievable, so reducing the frequency rather than cutting them out altogether can be more doable. Another option is to look for healthier snacks. So let's look at healthier snack options. Fruit is always good, especially if you're looking for something to eat but aren't really hungry. Other options include chopped vegetables, vegetable soup, crisp bread, rice cakes with low or reduced fat spread, or a handful of nuts. Over the last few sessions, we've covered all the sections on the Eat Well guide to explain a healthy diet. The green section, fruit and vegetables, the yellow section, bread, potatoes and other starchy carbohydrate foods, the smaller pink section, beans, pulses, fish, eggs, meat and alternatives, and the blue dairy section, and the very small oils and spreads section. Today, the high-fat, salt-sugary foods and drink. We also, at the start of the programme, highlighted the importance of fluids. Hopefully, you've now got a good understanding of each of the food groups and an awareness that eating a variety of different foods helps us to get the wide range of nutrients to keep our bodies healthy. You may be asking yourself, what changes do I need to make to my current meals to be in keeping with the Eat Well Guide's food group portions? As we've said before, the Eat Well Guide is designed to give you a rough idea of your overall daily intake, not to show portions of an individual meal. The amounts we eat of each of the food groups depends on our energy or calorie requirements, which can vary depending on how active we are. However, it's sometimes still good to see whether our current meals fit in with the food groups. For instance, does your plate have any more room for vegetables or salad? Do you have sensible amounts of potatoes, rice, pasta, or other starchy carbohydrates on your plate? And protein foods such as the beans, fish, eggs, meat, or alternatives. Remember, you should also be looking at ways to reduce the amount of fat, sugar and salt in your meal and making sure you're drinking plenty of healthy fluids. It's now a good time to think about your overall portion sizes. So consider this statement. We all eat or drink more when we're offered larger portions, packages or tableware than when we're offered smaller sized portions. Do you agree with this? You may remember back in session 1, Kerry, our psychology assistant, mentioned that the increasing portion sizes in today's restaurants and takeaways are having an effect on people's weight. This statement you can see here was actually made by researchers following a study, and they found that regardless of a person's gender, weight, hunger levels or self-control, they would eat more when they saw bigger portions, packaging and tableware. Do you think you need to make changes to your portion sizes? Some people have found using a smaller plate helpful when trying to reduce or maintain weight. Often people tend to overestimate how hungry they are and how much food they need to feel full up. Try serving a smaller portion on a smaller plate and see how you get on. Researchers found that people can feel satisfied and manage very well with smaller portions. Now let's turn our attention to physical activity. How are you getting on? If you find standing exercises difficult, you may benefit from chair-based activities. You'll find information on chair-based activities within your local authority physical activity websites. This includes information on chair-based activities that you can do at home and the availability of chair-based exercise classes within your area. Please see web links within your support material. Also found in your support material, there are web links to NHS sitting exercises and the British Heart Foundation chair-based activities. They both provide useful information on chair-based or sitting activities. Other physical activities you may need to think about are those that improve balance and coordination. You'll remember back in session 5 we spoke about strength exercises which we require to do at least 2 days per week. For some, particularly people who are at risk of falls, exercises that improve balance as well as strength are often required. Activities such as yoga, Tai Chi and dancing can improve balance, coordination and strength. Again, your local authority physical activity websites will provide you with information on exercises for strength, balance and coordination, including the availability of such exercise classes within your area. Please have a look at the local authority web links within your support material. Other physical activity support can be provided to people with medical conditions. There are classes designed specifically for people living with long-term health conditions such as diabetes, breathing difficulties and heart disease. These classes are run by trained instructors throughout Grampian and your health professional can often refer you into these. There is the Grampian Cardiac Rehabilitation Association that offers gentle exercise classes to people with health conditions, not just those with heart problems. To find out what classes are available within your area, have a look at their website which you'll find in your support material. I'll now pass you on to Kerry, who's going to look at your goals in detail.
Thank you, Myra. For a number of sessions now, you've been writing out goals to achieve and hopefully you've been able to progress with them. Each session, we have asked you to review these goals and to see if there has been anything that has gotten in the way or to consider any changes that need to be made. Today we're going to take a closer look at this together as we check in with how you're doing. So firstly, let's take a goal that you had identified during a previous session. We can check in with how you're doing by asking ourselves a couple of questions. These are, am I on track with my goal? Have things come up that have made it difficult for me to progress with my goal? And have I managed to start my goal and keep progressing with it? We can take a look at each of these questions in more details and see how we can use them to our advantage. If you feel you're on track with the goal you had set out, that's great. Let's take a look at what has helped you with this. Did writing out each detail of your goal make it easier to carry out? Did planning it into your schedule help? Maybe you organised yourself to help reach your goal, like writing out your shopping list, leaving out your exercise clothes, or putting your trainers in your work bag. If you can identify the methods that have worked for you, then keep utilising these with other goals you make. This is something that's working well for you, so why not keep doing it? whether that's with goals you're making during these sessions or within your wider life. If you have found it hard to meet your goal, take a moment to ask yourself why that is. Is there something that's making it difficult to reach? Maybe you're struggling to eat those 5 fruit and veg every day. Maybe you're aiming to do 20 minutes of exercise a day, but have been struggling to go longer than 10 minutes. Maybe you have aimed to meal plan for the week, but notice there are times when you go off your plan. Here the issue could lie with the goal that has been set. It may be too difficult for you to reach at this point. So let's break it down a bit further so that you can reach it more easily. If you had planned to do something 5 days a week and you're finding that to be a struggle, break that down to 2 or 3 days a week and build up to 5 when you've had more practice and feel more comfortable doing so. If you're finding 20 minutes too long for exercise, set a shorter time limit of 10 minutes. This is especially important when it comes to physical activity, as we don't want to strain our bodies. Exercise and movement can be built up over time as our bodies, muscles, and stamina continue to improve and we become stronger. Your goal can be broken down into more manageable chunks so that it feels more achievable, as well as allowing you to build up the strength and motivation that will help you reach the next step. And you can use what you have learned from these starting moments to help guide those next steps. You might notice that it's been particularly difficult to start working towards your goal or finding it difficult to progress with. When this happens, it can be very easy for us to be hard on ourselves or beat ourselves up for not making the progress we wanted to have made. Again, I want you to take this time to think about what it is that has prevented you from doing what you had set out to achieve. There are 3 different areas I'd like you to consider whilst thinking about this. Firstly, perhaps it's the goal itself. Maybe it's just slightly out of reach. Maybe it's a bit too challenging and you're finding that daunting. If that's the case, you can adjust the goal to make it manageable for you. These goals are for you, written by you, and can be adapted as you see fit. Another factor to consider is your environment. Maybe what's going on around you isn't helping you get closer to your goal. Maybe you find it difficult to get out to the park to go for that walk, as weather is always rubbish and it's either raining, windy or cold. Maybe there are several birthdays coming up and there'll be plenty of birthday cake in the house. With these kinds of things, there's very little we can change. We can't move birthdays or control the weather, but what we can do is adapt to best suit these environments. Maybe you look out your rain jacket or umbrella to take on your walk for when the weather does turn, or you decide to do a 10-minute step video on YouTube. If there are going to be a few celebrations coming up, maybe you decide to balance your day by planning nutritious meals. Remember that you are the one who has made the goal, and it is perfectly okay to edit as you see fit. The third and final factor that I want you to consider and see if it's hindering you from reaching your goal is the thoughts that appear in your head. Our minds can be very powerful, and you might find that there are thoughts saying, "I'll do it when I'm in the mood," or "I'll start when I feel motivated." Maybe there are thoughts that are quite critical of ourselves and make it difficult to start, like, "I won't be able to do that." A key thing to remember here is, these thoughts are not facts, and they don't need to control our actions. More importantly, you've already made that crucial first step where you've thought about your goal, planned it, and written it down. Use that step as momentum to help you with the next stage for your goal. Another helpful tip is to remind yourself why you have set this goal in the first place. Is it to feel better, feel healthier, to get stronger, or to keep hydrated? Reminding yourself of why you are doing this can help give you enough energy to get that next step done and progress through your goal. You can use these questions at any point to check in on a goal that you have set. Remember, you can adjust goals as you need and utilise those techniques that work for you. Remember that a little progress every day adds up to big results. We'll continue to prompt you to check in with your goals at each session. It can be easy to forget to do this, but it can be so beneficial to help us to reach those achievements. I'll now hand you back to Myra.
That brings us to the end of the session. Let's have a quick recap of the topics we've covered. We began the session by looking at foods high in fat, salt and sugar, and then went on to look at some healthy snack options. Since this is our last session on the Eat Well Guide, we summarised the main points for a healthy, balanced diet and then highlighted the importance of looking at your overall portion sizes. We returned to activity, including signposting to key support services, and then Kerry finished off with looking at goals in more detail. It's now a good time to write your goal or goals for the coming week into your Goal Planner section of Session 7's activity book. Remembering to think about the topics we discussed today and also using your food and activity record in helping you think what you want to do. Please pause your video now to do this. Lastly, our top tip for today is to use reminders to keep you on track. Sometimes we get busy with our daily routines and we simply forget. For example, you might have set your goal to drink 8 cups of fluid a day, and before you know it, it's late afternoon and you've only had 3 cups. You could write your goals on a post-it note and attach them around your home or office. You could leave your trainers by the door to remind you to go for that walk. You could ask a friend to remind you. What do you think you could do to remind yourself to keep on track? That brings us to the end of this session. I hope you'll find the information useful. Remember to go and have a look at the supporting material for this session and check out the websites for activities in your area.